Let's Meet for a Beer podcast. We're doing it in Banff this weekend. I'm hanging out with my friend Matt. How you doing, man?
Yeah, doing pretty good.
Good. You're doing better than you were
An hour
7
ago?
hours ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a good time last night. That's for sure.
This is called Let's Meet for a Beer, but I thought it was probably best if we refrained from drinking beers this morning. I think that you need some time off.
I'll wait till noon, so we got a few minutes here.
Yeah, this is really just me doing an intervention. I'm worried. No, I'm just kidding. But it was a good time last night.
Yeah, that was a party.
I want to kind of talk about how you got to where you are now, because you're doing a lot of exciting projects. But when I first met you, it was when Park Distillery first opened, and you were their distiller.
Yeah.
But the story of even how you became a distiller, I thought was funny. So I'm actually just trying to test my own memory. You're from Saskatchewan?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Bred, yeah.
And the idea of being I remember you telling me when you were a bartender, you were cracking beers and pouring Ryan Cokes. That was the extent of what you
Wiser's
thought.
whiskey.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. That was bartending, yeah.
And so where were you working when you had somebody kind of come in as a cocktail expert, and that kind of changed everything? Just share that story.
That's right, yeah. So that was a solid 10, 12 years ago. I was at the Banff Park Lodge, working there in the F&B departments, and they hired a friend of mine now, George Kaplan, into the lobby lounge and terrace dining room, and he was like a cocktail wizard, and I didn't know what that was at the time, and I kind of thought he was a bit of a poof, like drinking cocktails, fingers up. And he sat me down and made me an old fashioned, made me a whiskey sour, made me a Manhattan. And I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
So I volunteered time. He educated me. I was working down there for free because it was salary upstairs. And it just evolved into this never ending research project of mine, which is alcohol, right? And as he developed me over a year and a half and decided to move on back home to Ontario, he kind of dropped me on the doorsteps of the Balkan, which is the Greek restaurant. And that was my first chance to kind of get out of hotels and be into the mainstream of downtown, and it never looked back from there.
So what was it that I guess like turned you, kind of did that 180 where you went from like, this is silly, to wow, this is amazing, because you essentially dedicated your professional life to it at that point?
Yeah, like restaurants and bars for the last 20 years of my life, and 18 of it in Banff, and the idea that you can like be an artist behind a bar, right? Like the art of cocktail making is what fascinated me the most, and that it didn't matter what you wanted to do. At the end of it, you were going to come out with something delicious if you put your time and energy into it. And then the customer, the client, loved that the most. So it just kind of was like addictive, and just wanted to keep going with it, right?
So when you worked how did you go from being a bartender to then becoming a distiller? What's that process look like?
Yeah, so I'd done a few years at the Balkan, and they're now Banff Hospitality Collective, so they've got a few restaurants in town, and at the time they were wanting me to progress through the company, and during the evolution of craft distilling in Alberta, where it became legal, they decided to take what was Giorgio's then, which is now Park Distillery, and turn it into a distillery restaurant. And they sat me down and asked if I wanted to be the master distiller. I shook a hand and I was like, yeah, for sure. And the first thing I went and did was Googled, what is distilling?
Yeah.
I understood what bourbon was, and I could make you the best old fashioned, and I was in cocktail competitions, but I didn't really fully understand the science that it takes to make distilling happen. So I self-educated, and they allowed me to buy a mini still, and I kind of moved into the Greek grandma's basement, and I was able to test batch over a year and mash and read biology textbooks on yeast and enzymes and pressures and whatnot, and did a year of distillation. It was like 47 different batches I made over that year in a 50-liter hillbilly pot still, to where then we opened Park, and I pioneered the program there, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful space.
Yeah, it's
so
something.
So when you first started distilling, so a lot of distillers, from what I can understand, they start with the vodkas and the gins. I think because it can be called a vodka or a gin without it, aging. Whereas like a whiskey, it needs to age for 3 years,
Minimum 3.
right?
Yeah.
So did you guys have a strategy in place of what you guys wanted to distill when you started with that?
Yeah, like clear spirits is kind of like what they say pays the bills while your whiskey's aging. The fun part with Park was, this 200-seat, 2-story building was the cocktail program was going to rival anything.
Right.
So now I was able to make products that were designed around the cocktails that I wanted to produce because I was curating that bar program as well. So yes, vodka was first, and then we started to do infusions with like espresso and vanilla and chili, and then our gin kind of came about a year later. I did a hard R&D distilling all the different botanicals on my mini still and understanding what they are, and I had a lot of pushback. People like, where's your gin? Where's your gin? Where's your gin? But I didn't want to be changing the gin as I was evolving the recipe. I wanted to make sure it was right, and that's when we did Alpine dry gin with locally sourced spruce tips. Right. And as soon as that hit, it like blew up for us that we, were able to send spirits off to competitions where we had won best in class platinum for our vodka. So out of 200 vodkas entered in a global competition, we got number 1. And that kind of, solidified that this isn't just a tourist kind of gimmick anymore. We actually are producing quality spirits.
Right.
Then they just allowed me to produce what we wanted. And I moved into like barrel aged cocktails where we're now taking, pallets of Campari and sweet vermouth and our gin and making a Negroni, aging it for 6 months in new oak and then bottling it off. And we ended up being the biggest purchaser of Campari as well in Canada, which allowed me to go actually see the facility in just outside of Milan because we wanted to buy totes of Campari, right? Like it just kind of kept growing. And then kind of in the background, we were aging all of our whiskey.
Right.
We had about 200 barrels by the time I moved on from there, and all new oak, half cask, full cask, used oak, 100% rye. Even did a bourbon mash bill. And we were trying to just like find that evolution of what spirit we wanted to go make for like 25 years in whiskey because we had none. So you got to kind of figure it out, and time takes that, right?
Right.
Yeah. And then of evolution into like on tap cocktails. We started with Negronis and old fashions and things like that, and then we dropped Shaft on Draft and kind of pioneered that with Rob at Craft, right? Yeah, that was the whole idea, and then it just kind of kept going, and to now where we've got a full core line of cocktails on tap by Hendo, and now moving into canned highlights.
That's wicked. Okay, so this is when I ask a really stupid question. I like to drop in the odd, really dumb question, but you mentioned that you guys won for your vodka. Vodka is one of those spirits that I don't understand because I don't like. What makes a good vodka? Is it that it doesn't taste like anything, or like what is it what are you judging?
Yeah, so up until really craft distillation started in America, vodka was known as this mass-produced, over-distilled. It burns when you drink it. There is no depth, there is no character, there is no rich flavors. When craft distillation comes around, we now can ferment in small batches and manipulate the base spirit from our grain, even depending on what flavors we want to leave in the fermentation, different yeast, different temperatures. And then we can now distill it through our column stills that we have that start off as a pot still rather than just a mass-produced continuous still. When we sent the product off to the SIP Awards in San Diego, the feedback that we got was that we had a rich mouth, big depth and character, but still a clean, long-lasting finish, which is kind of different to what the world knew vodka as.
Right.
Yeah. So it was good to hear that, the people that are kind of, making the decisions in the world of judging are on trend with what we were trying to do, which was create something that still is a clean, distilled up to 95% alcohol, but has depth and character in it.
Right. So then would you sip a vodka, or is it still something that you mix in a drink? Like what's...
Yeah, like vodka's the number one purchase spirit on the planet, and it always will be, and everyone drinks it differently. For me, yeah, like I like vodka on ice if I'm gonna drink vodka. Yeah. I've put it into highlight where we've got, passion fruit or strawberry, and we've got cocktails coming out of it for sure, because we were trying to bring the flavor of the cocktail and not manipulate it with the spirit. But it's to each their own. There's no wrong way to drink, but for me, I just like sipping on vodka, a little bit of ice to chill.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about, so how long ago did you leave Park then?
Yeah, so we will be coming up to 2 years here in February. So it's been a couple now.
Okay.
And for the last year, I really put my head down and started this Cocktails on Tap vision. And it's just grown. We did it in Banff last November, so a year ago, kind of this month, at the Rose and Crown and at the Banff Park Lodge. So I had this hotel conference lobby lounge, and then like the pub of Banff, right? Like the nightlife place. And even like last winter during, the unfortunate circumstances of Omicron and like curfew and like super cold weather, the Rose and Crown was still flipping a keg of each flavor every single week.
Yeah.
And you couldn't serve past 11, and that bar normally doesn't get busy till 11. So we knew we had a thing, but we wanted to slow roll it through winter to see. And then in March of this year, we decided to inventory up and make 50 kegs of the Strawberry Smash, the Pineapple Express, and our Lime Margarita. And I went to town in Calgary and started selling. And, using all of our relationships that I'd created over these years. And we were kind of knew that May would be when people are switching their menus up.
Yeah.
And so we kind of hoped 50 kegs would be a big month for us. And like, that would be awesome. If we can just do that consecutive over the summer, it'd be great. And in May we did 270 kegs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the bars and the service industry stood behind speed of service, consistency, and also quality. We're using 100% real juice. There is no preservatives, no fake flavorings, no anything in it. And so for them to be able to serve like 50 margaritas in 3 minutes, that's real now. And they got behind it. And then in I guess it would have been April, May, I was sitting down with PJ at Craft, and we started talking about shaft again, and he offered an opportunity for me to make a new shaft, and he would definitely list it because of the relationship we built with the old shaft on draft, and so I did, and I came out with OG shaft, and it kind of lit up the city, and everyone changed back to the original shaft, which was the whole idea, and that definitely like allowed us to then staff up and hire reps and production people, and not just like seat of the pants willy-nilly anymore. We're going to actually go ahead and do this. And now we've got, Monica in the mountains and Jojo in the city and production manager in our facility in Airdrie. And it's a team now. And so we're able to build this up and really give it a shot. And now we're going.
Okay. So I just want to, I kind of want to understand the concept. So what made you, so what was it that you were building that was maybe different from the typical business model of a distillery? Because I feel like the way that you sell your product to the whether it's pubs and bars, basically the way the consumer gets your product is different than the typical business model. So what is your business model, and kind of how did you come up with it?
Yeah, so Cocktails on Tap is something that I was doing with Park, and it was all straight spirit. I hadn't figured out the juice part of it yet, and understanding that some juice separates and how to not make that happen. And so it was when I had the opportunity to do a full juice brand, that became the business model, was to provide that delicious strawberry gin smash that's clarified and lightly carbonated on tap, so it's consistent and the same every single time. We wanted to be able to allow the service industry that was struggling for staff, especially coming out of COVID, to be able to make cocktails and not slow the service down.
Right.
We've all gone to a bar and ordered a cocktail, wait 20 minutes, and it's kind of gets annoying now, right? Especially when you're with a group of beer drinkers. If you got a table of 6, 4 beer drinkers and 2 are cocktails, the minute a cocktail's ordered, those beers ain't coming out any quicker.
Right.
So now they're waiting for you as well. So the whole like idea of getting these servers to upsell these on tap cocktails while they still have a full cocktail menu, like, you guys all order beer, why don't you try this strawberry smash? It will come out just as fast as the beer, and then we'll work on that $15 cocktail in time. And they're almost like upselling themselves into another cocktail, right? And that was kind of what we went for, was speed, efficiency, and consistency. And yeah, man, these bars just, they got behind it and understood it, and the product's real, and they get it.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. So obviously, yeah, you saw a need in the market. What are you working on now? Because we had looked at, you were showing me some cans and stuff like that. So obviously your business model continues to evolve. What's the the focus now?
Yeah, like cocktails on tap, the kegs are definitely our focus. That's our
Yeah.
bread and butter and what we're doing the best. But as we were kind of rounding out the summer and we knew that like sales would go down, patios close, cocktail season kind of slows down a bit. We were just like, well, what should we do? And it was like, well, why don't we try doing a can? And I've had this brand Highlight in the back of my mind for a few years now. And so this was the opportunity to do that. An all real juice cocktail, or RTD as people are calling it, except we're just not the vodka soda with whatever essence of flavor they're adding. We're real juice. And I think the consumers understand that. Yeah, it costs a little bit more for that can comparative to your, seltzers or whatever's out there. And so we've definitely shifted into wanting to produce that. It was an unknown going into winter with a fruit juice brand. We weren't sure how well it would sell, and we weren't concerned if it didn't sell because we knew spring's coming, right?
Yeah.
And we were fortunate enough to partner with Lake Louise Ski Hill. They were very kind with the margarita and the strawberry smash on tap. We're at now 5 locations across the mountain, and they got behind Highlight and decided to list the passion fruit and the strawberry Highlight in all the grab and go areas. So now we've associated ourselves with a winter brand, which was huge for us. And we started off by giving away a ski pass for Lake Louise, Q code on every 4-pack. Scan it, enters you in to win. And we've now associated ourselves with full winter brand, which is great because the home is in the mountains here.
And we were talking a little bit yesterday. You may or may not remember this, but just in terms of where your vision is, and obviously you don't have to get into all of it, but when you think about what you're doing, let's say 3 years down the road, 5 years down the road, if that's even possible, like where do you see what you're doing?
Yeah, like right now we're definitely developing a house of brands. Just like any big company out there, they may own a ton of different spirits or beers, and it's all managed and owned by one company. We're kind of moving that way. So this ByHendo.com that we've had is the parent company, and it's going to kind of move up into the umbrella overseeing OnTapCocktails.com, DrinkHighlight.com, and then we're launching a new brand here in this. Well, I guess we call it January, but for spring focus, called El Cocktails, which is our Mexican line. So all tequila base, and El Margarita, El Paloma, and El Mule, where you shake the can just like we're doing with our passion fruit. And then we hope in May to launch a gin line and a rum line, so that we've now got 5 or 6 different brands that are all individual but governed by Hendo. Yeah. So we're hoping that we'll execute on all that, but at least we know going into spring we'll have our vodka line and our tequila line, and then on tap cocktails, and it will grow as time happens. We're moving into BC as we go. That new craft beer market that opened up in Victoria, we were fortunate enough to get the OG Shaft listed out there, and that followed suit to having the other 3 that are in BC happening, and we just want to kind of keep growing and build out Western Canada as we go here.
Well, I'd say knowing PJ is a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. He understands that, like, that model of like that speed, consistency, and efficiency. And the bars we find consume more when they're drinking Shaft, because it's not just doing shots of Jack anymore. They're actually having like an uppity moment, dancing happens, and people start to want to consume more without over consuming, I guess you can say.
Right.
Yeah, so he sees that and understands it, and we've been fortunate enough to definitely align ourselves with them to make that happen.
So, okay, you seem like well, from what I know of you, you obviously take something and run with it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the same in other parts of your life? Like, what do you do outside of work, and are you as like psychotically passionate about those things?
Yeah, definitely like that work-life balance. Like, I'm fortunate enough to live in Banff in the mountains. Skiing is awesome. My 4-year-old daughter here, we're getting her into ski lessons up at Norquay, and it's even brought that passion back into the mountains. When I moved to Banff 18 years ago as an 18-year-old kid, we were doing 100-day ski years, and that slowly kind of gets less and less as time goes on. Life happens and you can't go skiing 100 days out of a year. Well, now that Piper's into skiing, well, it gets us back out of the mountain and totally trying to do that family feel. I'm in Banff for almost 20 years, don't plan on leaving. And so you got to enjoy the time while you're here. And that mountain life is what I think is keeping me here. And definitely the passion flows through that.
Well, it's cool to reconnect with you, because we reconnected in the springtime. You did our festivals in Edmonton and Calgary, and then obviously we're here in Banff, so you're doing the Banff Craft Beer Festival. What is it like for you personally? You know, why do you decide to do festivals? Is it getting in front of the consumers and getting that immediate feedback, or where do you see the value in it?
Like I was having great conversations with Dan at Coal Garden last night about that, right? Because he's got this vision too that's very similar and aligns well with mine. Is the industry that we're in, which is food and beverage and bars, is to have fun and to socialize and connect with people and grow those conversations and keep things happening. So that's number one for me. Like for sure, getting out in front of people and them knowing our brand is it, but the platform you allow us to be part of is a party, and I enjoy that, right? And making sure that everyone's having fun, dancing. They brought a DJ around yesterday, and it was just a great time, and that is like the epitome of it all, right? We want to get to as many people as we can, but even if it's just that room of 40 people dancing like a nightclub, that's what brings it home for me, for sure.
Yeah, it's a pretty special community. For us, every time we do a festival, it feels like, I always joke, it's like a family reunion. We
Totally.
see like our team comes together, but then getting to see, all of you guys from the community coming out, and it always just makes me kind of realize like how many years ago it was that we first connected. And just remembering sitting at Park and you walking me through the distillery and just the passion that you had. And so, just kind of following your career and what you've done, just knowing that you have that baseline kind of foundational passion, it's really been fun to watch. So
totally,
when we all get a chance to, come together, it's only a few times a year, but it's just, for me, it's so much fun to see what everyone, what's your next crazy idea? Dan from Coal Garden, that's another good example, right?
Yeah, so, exactly.
See, I knew you guys would hit it off. That's why I put you guys
It was amazing when I saw that on the map. I was like, no way, we got two party booths beside each other. Let's go, right?
I'm like, what could possibly go wrong?
Nothing.
Well, we're about to find out. Yeah. No, this is awesome. So, and like you said, you got your daughter here. You guys are going to get skiing. Did you know that she told me this is a fact. When you and your wife aren't in the room, if she's with her dog talks.
Yeah, that's Penny, right, Piper? Yeah. Just giving a nod.
That's awesome. So you guys are off. You're going to take her out skiing.
Yeah, we got ski lessons. It's starting up again. First one of the year. So we got 4 in a row and get her out there as much as we can. Yeah.
Well, it's not a bad place to live, hey?
Oh, man, it's a dream. We live in people's vacations. It's like the Disneyland for adults. And
I
love it. The tourist is why we're here. And so let's make sure that they have the best time possible, so we also can have the best time possible.
Yeah, it's cool. It's good to see that you kind of have that balance where you get to get out to, because I was talking to Scott from Pursuit, and sometimes, the irony is when you live here, you actually aren't able to take advantage of it just because, like you say, it is very tourist based. So you're very focused often on the tourists enjoying themselves.
It's slow in October, November, which is kind of the worst seasons for the mountain.
Yeah.
But making sure that you get to enjoy, the short summer that we have, and then this long winter of just awesome skiing and the best snow in the planet, right? Take advantage when you can.
Are you a skier or snowboarder?
Snowboarder by trade. I learned how to ski when I met my wife 10 years ago so that she could keep up, and then I switched back to snowboarding again, and now I'm on skis with Piper because we're trying to get her going on skis, and if she chooses to snowboard in the future, awesome. But I think that foundation on the mountain is skiing is best, and so I'm on the sticks again, which is cool.
Awesome. Sweet, man. Well, thanks for taking the time.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll see you obviously later tonight, but love connecting with you, and just super excited to see what you're doing, and
as this thing grows,
it's funny, hey, how just how life works, where just that one experience of sitting down with your coworker and learning more about cocktails, keeping that open mind, because like you said, you're like, this is dumb, and then it's just like, okay, wait, maybe there's something to it, and then that turns into a lifelong passion,
just right like that.
It's pretty cool. Awesome. Congratulations, man.
Okay, sweet. Thanks a lot, man.
Get out to the ski hill. Come on, be a good dad.
Let's do it.